Right then, you lot. Welcome to the world of Formula One, where petrol fumes hang in the air like cheap cologne and grown men in fire suits treat the laws of physics like mere suggestions. Forget your sensible hatchbacks and your soccer mums in SUVs. This is a world of speed, glamour and daring overtakes that'll leave you spitting out your tea. Over the next little while, we're going to dive headfirst into the history books and rip out some of the juiciest, most eyebrow-raising achievements in Formula One history. We're talking legendary drivers, record-breaking teams and technological advancements that'd make your smartphone look about as sophisticated as a potato. So buckle up, grab a biscuit or a pint, I won't judge, and get ready for a wild ride through the greatest moments in Formula One. Now, some of you might be thinking 7 championships, that's just greedy, innit? But let me tell you, Lewis Hamilton didn't achieve this by sitting around knitting tea cozies. This bloke is a machine, a force of nature behind the wheel. He's got more overtaking maneuvers in his little finger than most drivers have in their entire careers. Think about it. 7 world championships. That's like winning the lottery 7 times in a row, except instead of picking numbers, you're wrestling a screaming, fire-breathing beast of a car around a track at 200 mph. And the competition, not exactly slouches, are they? We're talking about going up against some of the best drivers the world has ever seen, year after year, and coming out on top. It's the kind of dominance that would make a Roman emperor blush. But it's not just about raw talent, is it? It's about dedication, about pushing yourself to the absolute limit, and then scoffing a bacon sarnie and asking for more. Lewis Hamilton, you magnificent bastard, you've earned your place in the pantheon of Formula One legends. Now, before young Lewis came along and started nicking all the trophies, there was another driver who ruled the roost, Michael Schumacher, the Red Baron himself. This German fella, he was something else entirely. He had this icy focus, this almost robotic precision behind the wheel that made other drivers look like they were driving with oven mitts on. 7 world championships, just like Hamilton. Coincidence? I think not. The bloke was a master of reading the race, of knowing exactly when to push and when to play it cool. He could make a racing car dance like it was a waltzing hippopotamus, all grace and power. And don't even get me started on his wet weather driving. The man could find grip on a wet doorknob. But here's the thing about Schumacher. He wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. He was a fierce competitor. Some might even say ruthless. He pushed the limits, sometimes a bit too far, but that's what made him so bloody exciting to watch. He was a legend in his own time, and his legacy continues to inspire awe and a touch of fear in equal measure. Now let's talk about a driver who's making waves in the here and now. Sergio Perez, the pride of Mexico. This lad, he's got more heart than a mariachi band at a fiesta. He's a fighter, a scrapper, the kind of driver who'll squeeze his car through a gap the size of a chihuahua just to get ahead. And when he finally broke through and won his first Grand Prix, well, you'd have thought Mexico had won the World Cup, mate. The celebrations were off the charts, and rightly so. Perez represents something special, you see. He's proof that you don't need to come from a long line of racing royalty to make it in this sport. He's living proof that with enough talent, enough grit, and enough chili peppers in your diet, anything is possible. He's a hero to millions, and he's only just getting started. Keep an eye on this one because he's going places. Chapter 4, Red Bull Racing, the Bulls Run Wild. Let's be honest, you can't talk about Formula One without mentioning Red Bull Racing. These guys, they're like the rock stars of the sport. They burst onto the scene with their flashy cars, their even flashier team principal, and a young Sebastian Vettel at the wheel ready to tear up the rule book and rewrite history. And tear it up they did. 4 consecutive Drivers' and Constructors' Championships from 2010 to 2013. Domination, pure and simple. They were the team to beat, the benchmark against which everyone else measured themselves. But it wasn't just about the wins, was it? It was about the way they went about it. They were aggressive, innovative, and weren't afraid to take risks. They were like a breath of fresh air in a sport that can sometimes take itself a bit too seriously. They brought the fun back to Formula One, and the fans loved them for it. And now with Max Verstappen at the wheel, they're back to their winning ways, proving that the Bulls are still a force to be reckoned with. Chapter 5 AV6 Hybrid Era, Power and Efficiency, who knew? Now, I know what you're thinking. Hybrid engines in my Formula One? That's like putting a tofu burger in a steak sandwich, but bear with me because this technological leap forward is actually quite interesting. You see, back in 2014, Formula One decided to get all sensible and environmentally friendly. Shocking, I know. Gone were the ear-splitting V8 engines replaced by these newfangled V6 hybrid power units. And you know what? They're bloody brilliant. They're more powerful than the old V8S, more fuel efficient, and they sound like a swarm of angry bees trapped in a titanium dustbin. What's not to love? Sure, some purists moaned and groaned about the lack of noise, but those people probably still listen to their music on gramophones and think the height of automotive technology is a carburetor. These hybrid engines are the future, and they've ushered in a new era of Formula One, one where power and efficiency go hand in hand. Chapter 6, Hybrid Power Systems, a Spark of Genius. Before the V6 hybrid era, there was another revolution brewing in the world of Formula One. The introduction of hybrid power systems in 2009. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hybrid? Sounds a bit like something you'd find in a Prius, doesn't it? And you wouldn't be entirely wrong. But these weren't your average run-of-the-mill hybrid systems. These were Formula One spec, which means they were about as subtle as a kick in the cobblers. They used a system called KERS, which stands for Kinetic Energy Recovery System, which is a fancy way of saying they captured energy that would normally be wasted during braking and turned it into a power boost. Think of it like giving the drivers a nitrous button, only instead of nitrous it was powered by clever engineering and the tears of their rivals. It was a game changer, adding an extra layer of strategy and excitement to the races. Chapter 7. Advanced Safety Systems, keeping the drivers in one piece, mostly. Formula One's always been a dangerous sport. I mean, let's be honest, strapping yourself into a rocket ship on wheels and hurtling around a track at breakneck speeds is never going to be a walk in the park. But over the years, the sport's done a remarkable job of improving safety, and nowhere is that more evident than in the development of advanced safety systems. We're talking about things like the HANS device, which protects drivers' necks in a crash. We're talking about impact-resistant barriers, fire-resistant suits, and helmets that look like they belong in a science fiction film. And then there's the halo, that weird-looking titanium halo that sits above the driver's head. Now, I'll admit, when it first came out, I thought it was a bit daft. Looked like something out of a bad Transformers movie. But then I saw it in action, deflecting debris and saving lives, and I realized it was a stroke of genius. Formula One might still be a dangerous sport, but thanks to these advanced safety systems, the drivers are safer than they've ever been. Now, if Formula One were a fancy cocktail party, the Monaco Grand Prix would be the guest of honor. It's the race everyone wants to win, the jewel in the crown of motorsport. It's held on the streets of Monte Carlo, which is basically a playground for the rich and famous. Yachts the size of small islands, casinos overflowing with champagne, and more designer sunglasses than you can shake a stick at. But forget all that for a moment, because the real star of the show is the track. It's a twisty, turny, narrow ribbon of tarmac that winds its way through the heart of the city. It's a driver's circuit, a real test of skill and bravery where one wrong move can send you careening into the barriers or into the harbour, if you're particularly unlucky. Winning at Monaco is like joining an exclusive club. It's a badge of honour, a testament to your driving prowess. It's the kind of race that makes legends. Now, if Monaco is Formula One's fancy cocktail party, then the British Grand Prix is like a good old-fashioned knees-up in a muddy field. It's held at Silverstone, a former World War II airfield that's been transformed into one of the fastest and most challenging circuits on the calendar. The British fans, they're a breed apart. They brave the elements, the rain, the mud, the occasional stray pigeon, all for the love of the sport. They're passionate, they're knowledgeable, and they're not afraid to let the drivers know what they think of their performance. The British Grand Prix is a true test of driver skill, a high-speed roller coaster ride that separates the wheat from the chaff. Right then, let's talk about the Italian Grand Prix held at the legendary Monza circuit. This place is not just a racetrack, it's a temple to speed, a cathedral of combustion, a place where the air itself vibrates with the sound of screaming engines. The tifosi, those passionate Ferrari fans, they turn up in droves, decked out in red, ready to cheer on their heroes. They're like a force of nature, these fans, and when a Ferrari driver takes the checkered flag, well, let's just say it gets a bit emotional. Monza is all about speed, raw, unadulterated speed. It's got these long straights where the cars hit their top speeds and the drivers' necks get a workout from all the G-forces. It's a true test of man and machine, and it's a race that always delivers excitement. So there you have it, some of the most notable achievements in the history of Formula One. From the drivers who pushed the limits of human endurance to the engineers who constantly redefined what's possible, Formula One is a sport that never stands still. It's a sport that's constantly evolving, constantly pushing the boundaries of technology and human achievement. And that's what makes it so bloody brilliant. It's a sport that captures the imagination, that ignites the soul, that reminds us that anything is possible if you're brave enough to chase it. So, next time you see a Formula One race on the telly, don't just walk on by. Pour yourself a drink, settle in, and prepare to be amazed.